Welcome to the National Women's Fitness Academy podcast. We're here to talk about women's health, female hormones, body image, and all things health and fitness.
Hello, girls, and welcome back to another episode of the Women's Fitness Academy's podcast. I'm your host, Siggy, one of the WFA's educators and a women's body image and fitness coach. If you haven't realized yet, we've entered a second season of our podcast, and we're so grateful for you all tuning in the past episodes, in tuning in today. And before I go ahead, please make sure to subscribe and give us a review. With your help, we'll be able to reach more women, more education, and more empowerment to support one another. So with that said, today I'm going to be chatting with the lovely Latoya Caruso, who is a WBFF Figure Diva and a mum of three and a wife and a business owner. She is a multifaceted woman, and we're actually going to be expanding a lot about what bodybuilding journeys look like for mums as business owners. We're going to touch on certain points about enhanced drugs, whether, there's the good side, the bad side, the ugly side. So there's going to be a lot of real talk in today's episode, and I can't wait for you all to tune in. So with that due, Latoya, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
I am so freaking excited about today's chat. It's so funny. My brain's like going 100 miles an hour, and I'm like, I just want to talk about everything like right now. But let's start with your journey with bodybuilding. Like, for those who don't know you, what got you started in bodybuilding?
Okay, well, it's always something that I've wanted to do. But it was something that I was always nervous to get up on stage in a bikini and being judged. I think as a female, we already feel judged as it is.
Yes.
And then putting yourself out there to be actually judged is a whole different ball game and a whole different level. So it's something, that I've wanted to do for about 10 years because I've been in the gym, been training with a background of competing. After I had my second daughter, I thought, you know what, I've had 2 children now, I can do this.
That. And you know what, before bodybuilding, like before we started recording, we also mentioned how you have a background of training in the gym and being surrounded by people who, are taking care of their health and fitness. What did that look like for you growing up?
Well, I started to learn how to swim when I was 6 years old. So I was a swimmer for about 15 years. I started competing when I was 8. And just went from there. It was all I knew. Swimming in the morning before school, swimming after school, competitions on the weekends, state, nationals, state teams. It was my life. And that's all I knew. I started weight training at 13 years old in the gym with my training team and my coaches. And my dad actually was in the gym a lot growing up, so he taught me and helped me a lot with that as well. But I became very competitive and loved doing what I did. Yeah.
That is so cool. I used to swim professionally as well when I was a kid. And
wow.
Yeah.
So you'd know all the training and all the hard yards.
I know. It's like my dad used to like wake me up before school hours and be like, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
And then after school you have the more practice, and then again, the competitions.
Yeah.
So it's no wonder why you have this fire in you for wanting to compete. And like you said, like whether it's, swimming or racing or whatever it is, some of us just naturally have that competition within us.
Absolutely.
Wanting
definitely
more and more. And I think that's really empowering, especially around bodybuilding, because we've seen the downside of bodybuilding, how women end up rebounding or they lack the self-worth because of them being judged.
Yes.
But with yourself, this is what I'm gauging anyway, you see it as more of a constructive feedback when you get, feedback from the coaches and what you could do better.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're putting yourself out there as an athlete to compete in a bodybuilding show, you need to be able to have that tough skin to take on that constructive criticism. I think it's really important. And bodybuilding is about working on yourself and your physique. So bring it on. Like you want to have that feedback and constructive criticism to make yourself better, a better athlete. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm so glad you mentioned that because, like we said, if you don't have that thick skin, it's just going to get to you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it does. And it still gets the best of the best athletes in the world. It's how we ground ourselves and bring ourselves back and just remember why we're doing this, how we started, where we've come from. And it takes a lot of self-talk, spiritually, emotionally, to engage with yourself and energy as well.
I love that. What helps you get grounded? Because I'm sure there's been many times that you've competed and you get certain feedback and you're like, oh, I don't know how to take that.
Yeah, I think for me, it's more of a fear not performing to expectations of everyone around me, but I put that on myself. I have a really great coach who is a really close friend of mine, Lisa, and she is very into the emotional energy, spiritual, and it's very new to me. And she's put me on to a lovely doctor, kinesiologist, who's also into hypnosis and getting in tune with that from very deep from within. And I actually had a session with Katia last night, and it was crazy, like full on, like wow.
I know all about this, but for our listeners,
Yes.
do you mind sharing what are some of the what do those sessions look like for you?
Yeah, sure. Well, being my first one, I didn't know what to expect. So it was via Zoom. And we actually dug really deep. We went back from Katia was talking about the emotions and feelings that your parents have when you're conceived, is how we come out into the world when your mum's in labor and you're being born. And it was just unbelievable. So all these emotions, like looking back at when I was 6 and when I was 8 and when I was competing, and the fears and the anxieties that I've had throughout my life and where it stems from, and just techniques to kind of draw those out and let them go.
I love
Yeah.
that. Would you mind sharing what are some of the techniques that she's helped you with?
Well, she talks to you. She gets you to look left and right, because there's a psychological doctor that came out and said that this was a technique, and I'm sure you're aware of this. And as she's speaking, she just gets you to look left and right, and bring that image into the front of your head or front of your face, your third eye. And as she says, take a deep breath, let it go. It becomes really foggy, and then you kind of forget that thought and feeling.
I love that.
It's unbelievable, and it's hard to explain unless you actually do it. Or it's hard to explain how you feel because everyone is a little bit different as well. So for me, I was yawning. I was really, really tired. I was drained. I had such a headache after the meeting. But then the next morning I woke up and it was like I was a new person.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's very, I feel as if it's very similar to Reiki healing.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Because during, I'm a big fan of Reiki, and usually during my Reiki sessions, I will yawn. I'm super tired, fatigued, but then the next day or 3 days after, I'm bouncing full of energy.
Absolutely. Yes. And yeah, I saw Katia because I haven't really opened up too many people, only very close relatives of mine, and there is a fear of performance with me, and it has stemmed from quite a young age, and it was something that Lisa and I decided that we needed to work on in order for me to progress and get further along in my bodybuilding career.
I love that. That is so cool that you're able to tap into that side.
Yes. Yeah, it's unbelievable. And I'm European, so of European descent, so it was always taught to us growing up and being in a swimming background that you can't show your weakness. Don't cry, it's weak. Don't do that, it's weak. Don't show this, it's weak. So relearning a lot of this stuff as well is very new to me and different, but it's good. I'm on that journey now and I'm enjoying it.
That is so good. You know what? It just shows you never say never. You can always make those changes.
Absolutely. Definitely.
I love that. That's so cool. Going back to your bodybuilding journey, when you first started, did you know that you wanted to compete in figure, or were you just kind of going with the flow?
Well, actually, my first ever show in 2019, which was May with wbff, I actually competed as a bikini diva.
Cool.
So I was bikini, and I placed 7th in my first show. My goal was to be top 10. First show, it's a very big show. There's about 25 girls out there. Top 10 call-outs was my goal, and I got top 10 call-out. I received my feedback, and I was quite lean, so they said I would be suited more to the fitness category. So off I went on my little Trojan horse, and I'm like, that's it. I'm going to do October, because there's 3 shows a year with wbff. And I thought I'll give myself a good 4 months of building phase and then hit the stage in October as a fitness model.
I love that. And how did you go with that?
Well, that's when I kind of changed. I went into quite a high calorie deficit, and dabbled a little bit in some PEDs from advice from a coach, and grew. And then I went into the October show as a fitness diva. I think a week out before the show, I actually entered in the figure category as well. And that's where I placed 2nd in figure. I knew where I kind of sat and where my body and physique was heading.
I love that. That is so cool. While we're on the point, it's interesting because too often, like going back to what we originally were talking about, how we're getting judged by how we're looking, but with the feedback that you got, you were like, all right, cool. Well,
it was great feedback.
Yeah. So if you're not going to do bikini, like, let's move on to fitness side of things. Now, when you transitioned to that and when you started dabbling into PEDs, what did that look like for you?
It was very, very new to me. Coming from a swimming background, anything performing enhancing was a big no-no. That was absolutely something we were taught that you do not do, because you're always drug tested. So it was a natural route. We were very big on Chinese medicine, herbal teas, anything that wasn't banned substance. So it was, again, a never say never kind of thing. One of my coaches at the time opened me up to certain PEDs, and it was very, very minimal because I was very new to it, and I wouldn't go past that. I wouldn't do it to myself, and I didn't want to. So I think I did it quite wisely. Looking back at it, though, I didn't seek professional advice, which is something that I would definitely do this time round. If it was to happen again, I would be getting it prescribed and from a doctor, and not from just a fitness coach who says, hey, take this, because literally they have a Cert 3 in fitness, maybe in nutrition. There is no way anyone who isn't a doctor should be prescribing these kind of performance enhancing drugs to athletes, and women especially.
I'm so glad we're going to be talking about this, because obviously it's a very common theme that has been going on around, and having coaches who, again, are not qualified to do this is causing more harm to mainly women and also men.
Yeah, definitely. There are a lot of girls that I talk to that, myself included, like my liver and kidneys were no good for a long time. Getting regular blood tests that they, don't generally ask you to do, like that is a number 1 rule. You should be getting tested, even if you are a natural athlete, just to see where your body's at. So it is quite dangerous for young girls not getting their periods, females who haven't had children yet. These are things that women and men need to consider before even, going down that road.
And you know what? I'm finding that it's usually the younger generation that are taking advice from certain people that they shouldn't be. And they're like, okay, cool. Yeah, coach says this, I'm going to do that.
Yes.
They don't stop to question it.
No, which is quite scary.
So with your experience with performance enhanced drugs, let's elaborate around that a little bit. Like, what were some of the benefits of you using it, and what have you suffered any challenges around that?
Well, the benefits, obviously, I grew in a short period of time. My body did grow. I gained over 4 months. It was about 6 kilos of muscle. Wow. And that's I mean, I slept on stage at 52 kilos in May, and then I stepped on stage in October at 57. Yeah, so it's about 4.5, 5 kilos of muscle I'd gained within that time. The down effects, I did get some anxiety from it. And again, I was on very minimal PED, so I didn't take a lot. It was all oral. So yeah, I did get quite a lot of anxiety. And then down the track, when I got my blood test again, my liver and kidneys weren't great. And I don't drink, I don't smoke. So yeah, it just in that short amount of time, the damage it had done was quite alarming, actually. It was quite scary to me.
Wow, that's so interesting. Like, I have no idea about performance enhanced drugs, but from your experience and from people that I know who have taken them, they've mentioned that they've suffered from anxiety from it quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know why. I don't know what it's caused, what it does. But yeah, that was just how I felt. And I really had to ground myself and take a step back and always take a deep breath and, just take time out. So a lot of people get quite angry as well and frustrated. And I think I'm not that person. So if I did feel myself getting to that point, I would really pull myself back, because at the end of the day, I am a mum. My children and family come first, and first and foremost, they're always number one. So I always have to make sure that they're safe as well, and I'm healthy and safe for them as well.
It's so, to be honest, like, it's so important for a lot of women to realize that, because any form of drug is going to elevate certain areas of your health. As you mentioned, like menstrual cycle, did that affect any of your menstrual cycle?
Well, I was actually quite lucky. I feel like my body is quite resilient. Having that swimming background, I've always had my monthly periods. And I actually, on my first show, but I was a natural athlete, my first show, my period came on my show day. And I was very lean. So yeah, that was a shock to me. My second show in October, I didn't get it for 2 months, but then it came straight back as I, upped my body fat and went back to a natural, healthy weight. My menstrual cycle came back. But a lot of women, they don't get it for months on end, years.
It's so interesting that you mentioned that you got your period on your show day, and I'm laughing because I've only heard maybe once or two girls that have experienced it from my friend group.
Yeah.
And, like, how do you deal with that? Because on competition day, you're wanting to feel your absolute best, and all of a sudden, you've got leakage.
Yeah. And I was wearing a white bikini. Go figure. It was just, I went in. I remember exactly what happened. I was waiting around, and then I thought, all right, I've got to put my bikini on. Went into the bathroom, fiddling around with it, went to the toilet before I put it on, and then I was like, you're joking me. I didn't bring anything because I didn't think that this was going to happen. So I opened the door, and my friend's looking at me. She's like, did you break your bikini? Because my face must have been red. And I was like, no, I got my period. And about 4 girls looked up at me, and they were like, what did she just say? I'm like, I need a tampon. Like, I got my period. And I didn't feel any like bloating or touch wood. My period doesn't really affect me in that way, if that makes sense. And I guess when you're really lean, it didn't affect me. So I was okay. Like, I just fixed myself up, and I was more worried that the judges would see the little dangly thing, if anything. So I had to like tuck that in. I was like, girls, what do? I need advice. And they were all just throwing out ideas to me. But yeah, it was all fine. You couldn't see it on stage or in any photos, so it was fine.
That's good.
And it was light. It wasn't heavy. So
we survived the competition day with our period.
Yes. Definitely, yes.
Oh my God, that is crazy. I think there was a story going around. I can't remember who told me this, but they cut the string off the tampon. So
oh God, I would be too scared for that. I think I'd be like, what if I couldn't get it out? Oh, the shit we go through as females, I tell you what.
I know, right? The struggle. I don't know about you, but do you use menstrual cups?
I've never used it. No, never used a menstrual cup. No.
Yeah, okay. So like I've been using it for a while now, but it's so funny. Like obviously too much information, but we're all women here. But
That's
sometimes
right.
you're wanting to get it out and you're like, oh my God, where is it?
Oh
How can I
God.
find it? But then you do a little bit of a push and you're like, oh, okay, here it is.
There it is. Oh, I
Oh
love
my
it.
God. Yeah. It's so funny the stuff that we go through. And
Yes.
speaking of your your experience with PEDs,
Mhm.
are you going to be dabbling back into it? Like what's the goal now for your next show?
Well, for the next show, so I did a little bit for about a month, had my bloods done, and just that little month of taking a little bit of it, my kidneys and liver again didn't respond very well to it. So
Mm.
I was like, you know what, enough's enough. I'm done. I'm going to go down the natural road. And I've been natural for the past 2 months, and my body has looked the best it ever has. I think this might be one of the best packages I'm going to bring to the stage this year.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
love that. You know what? A takeaway lesson for everyone who is considering dabbling into, enhanced drugs or is doing it, get your bloods done.
absolutely. Yes. And not just once, get them done every few months, every few weeks if you have to, just until you know that you are healthy and your body is running and functioning well.
Yeah, I love that. It's so, so important. Again, like as you mentioned before, like some women are so naive around this
Yes,
and they will
yeah,
just take directions from whoever, wherever. So, yeah.
yes. No, get your bloods done first and then, seek professional advice before you even consider
Mm.
anything like that.
Yeah, don't take anything off the black market.
No, no, no,
Crazy,
no.
absolutely crazy. Speaking of your natural route now with competing, what's that going to
Yes.
look like for you?
Well, it's hard. I mean, you train hard either way. You're always training hard. This has probably been the toughest prep I've ever gone through with changes and changes of coaches. And I've got a new addition to the family, my little Luna, who's 11 months old. Um, and yeah, just juggling the business as well. So it's everything. Everything is just doesn't stop. It's non-stop. So have to wake up every morning and just tell myself I choose to do this. This is a privilege. It's a choice. But my family comes first. And I'm very lucky that I have incredible support from my husband, who he's been amazing. And, if I didn't have that or support from family and friends, it would be tough.
Mm, yeah, because as we know, like some people don't have that benefit or the support
No,
network
they don't.
to
No.
help them. So yeah,
Yeah,
cherishing that support that you
absolutely.
have is
Yeah,
amazing.
absolutely. Yeah.
What does your everyday life look like? Because, you're a full-time mom, you're a full-time
Hmm.
worker, and we're going
Yeah.
to be competing again. So,
Yes,
as you mentioned, like you're choosing to, live this
absolutely.
lifestyle, but what does that look
Yes.
like for you?
Well, it's a 4:10 a.m. start in the morning. So I am up that early. So my husband is still asleep with the girls at home. So no one misses me. So for me to do this and I guess, not that I feel guilty, but I'm a mum. I'm a full-time mum, as you mentioned. So I want to be home with my family and them not to miss me. And I don't want to take that away from them or think that I am choosing this over them.
Mm,
So I decided to sacrifice, which you have to sacrifice something along the lines and at any kind of point in a prep, my sleep. So I am up at 10 past 4 in the morning. I head to the gym. I get there about 5. And I do my 2-hour session at the gym, which involves my strength training, my cardio, and some posing. And I'm usually home by 7:15, 7:30 in the morning. And that's when the kids and Nat are waking up and getting ready for, Nat usually leaves for work. And then it's back to full-time mum, getting the kids ready for school and organising breakfast and everything like that. So then I drop the 2 older girls off and it's Luna and I throughout the day. And I'm home, my home business, and I'm working during the day, usually 10 till 2. And then that gives me enough time to be able to get organised with Luna and ready to go and pick the girls up from school. And then it's all their extra activities outside of school because I'm that mum. They do gymnastics and dancing and swimming and netball, and it's just non-stop. So yeah, it's a very busy life, but I get it done. I get things done. It's you have to be organized, and I'm that kind of person, but I enjoy it as well.
I love that. And it just shows you like when you're really committed to doing something, you will push past the, that feeling
Absolutely.
of uncomfortable. And
Yes.
it's so inspiring to hear that, because too often, like as we mentioned before, like not many people have the support that you have. However,
Yeah,
it's also a decision that you're making to wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning
that's
to
right.
go and do your training. And at
Yes,
the end of the day, we all have a choice whether we're wanting to train early or train later, as long as it's
absolutely.
fitting within our schedule.
That's right. Absolutely. I'm very big on if you really want to do something, you will do it. There's no excuses with me. I don't like that. I don't like that term, but I don't have the time, but I don't do this. And it's like, well, you're talking to the wrong person then if you're looking for sympathy, because I'm not going to give it to you. I just
Mhm.
can't. There's
It's so
always a choice. Yeah,
Yeah, it's so true that you mentioned that, because too often people do come up with those excuses. But have you ever
definitely.
found yourself making up an excuse not to do something?
Well, yeah, if I'm making an excuse not to do something, it's because I don't want to do it.
Mm,
You know what I mean? And then I don't do it because it's something I don't want to do. Like I said a few weeks ago, I used to read a lot. I used to read novels all the time because I worked for Virgin. I was a flight attendant and I had a lot of downtime in between, pre-marriage, pre-kids. And I'm like, I haven't read a book for a long time. It's like, I don't have, no, I'm not going to say I don't have the time. And I found myself, going through that. And I'm like, no, I can find the time. I just choose not to right now. So
mm.
yeah, there's a lot of things that, yeah, I'll probably say, oh, but it's like I'm choosing not to find that time right now. And there's a lot of other things going on at the moment. But if I really wanted to do it, I would.
Mm, I love that. That is so inspiring for the mums out there who, want to compete or wanting to do certain things within their
Hmm.
fitness. Like, what are some tips that you can give them around that?
Well, I think, I mean, I would say, work out a game plan with your partner or, your husband, or if you're a single mum, if you drop the kids off at school or childcare, just give yourself that hour and a half to 2 hours a day. That's all you need. And you'll always be there for your family and children after you have, done what you've needed to do. But it's something that that everyone needs to understand, that it is a sacrifice
Mm,
and it is hard work. But always remembering who you are and why you're doing it.
mm,
If it's something that you really want to do because it's been a dream and a goal, then go and do it. People will support you that love you. If
mm.
it's something, that you're not quite sure yet that you want to do, then it probably won't happen until you actually really know that this is something you want to do.
It's so true. And especially in
Yeah.
relation to bodybuilding, like too often women will go into it because of, oh, it's just something that I want to, tick off. They don't take it too
Yeah.
seriously, and then they get
Yeah.
disheartened about not winning it. So I love
Yes.
the fact that you mentioned that there needs to be a form of a purpose around it.
Yes, absolutely. 'Cause it's very hard, and it gets really hard. And where I'm at now, we're 4.5 weeks out, and this is where I'm starting to feel really tired, really hungry. Like if you don't have that passion and that goal and that drive, a lot of females, males, athletes drop off around this time.
Mm.
They just, they've had enough and they can't do it. And preps usually start around 20 weeks out. So it's a big commitment, really, really big commitment. You're missing out on functions, birthdays, celebrations. I mean, you can go to these things, which I do. I just don't eat. I bring my own food. Like I bring my scales. Like, things you have to change because your body needs to change and your mind needs to change. And if you're not mentally there, then it's not really worth it.
100%. It's either you're in it to win it, or it's just like
Yeah.
another hobby for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I do say, look, at the end of the day, this is a hobby for me. because I'm not being paid to do this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I am an athlete, and I didn't really look at myself as an athlete for a long time until people started saying, well, you're an athlete. You train every day. You get sponsorships. You're paid by your sponsors. Like, that's an athlete.
Yes.
I'm like, yeah, I never really looked at it that way, but okay, let's just say I'm an athlete. So I start getting paid a full-time wage doing this, and I'll really look at myself like a full-time athlete. But for now, it's still a hobby and something that I love to do. And back to, I choose to do this, and I'm privileged to do this. So yeah.
I love that. And it just shows how set you are within your discipline to actually do the hard work.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that stems from my swimming days, I guess. I'm not always motivated, but I'm disciplined and I'm consistent. And that's built in you from, when you do your sports growing up, or whether it be music, sports, dancing, I think that's built in you from a young age.
100%. And your surroundings as well.
Absolutely.
In terms of, your competition days or just training in general, I know you're very big in setting goals.
Yes, definitely. Yes. I believe in setting little daily goals every day and reaching those goals. You're setting weekly goals, monthly goals, yearly goals. And just because when you're achieving little goals, you're like, oh, great, I achieved that today. And you're proud of yourself. And then you'll set another target or a goal for the week, and then you hit that, and it's like, wow, the week's gone already. I've hit all my goals. And then that's where the consistency comes in, and you're just moving forward, constantly moving forward. And some days are a lot tougher than others. Some days are great. But if you've got those goals to reach, you're pushing yourself every single day. When you don't have those goals, you're like, it's just another day kind of thing. I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow never comes, or tomorrow comes in a year.
It's so true. And like you mentioned, like staying consistent is the key, and whatever consistency looks like
That's right.
for everyone, because your consistency is going to look completely different to me.
Absolutely. Yes.
And my consistency is going to look completely different to someone else.
Absolutely. And that's a great point, because we are our own biggest competition. And I find myself my own biggest motivation. So, you can't compare to anybody. We are all very different, and we all have different goals, and it's us against us, or me against me.
And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because obviously competing in the bodybuilding industry, it's very easy to fall into that trap of comparing yourself.
Absolutely.
To other people.
Oh, yes. And I did that with my first show. And can I tell you, it was funny, because on Instagram, it is very different to real life. I will be the first to tell you that, because I experienced it firsthand. And people I was worried about didn't even look completely different. It was just crazy. So I've really learned to stay away from it. It's around this time, 6 weeks out, I really pulled back from Instagram and just really focus on myself and what I have to do. It's really healthy as well. It's unhealthy working yourself up mentally with the kind of social media BS, I should say, because that's all it really is most of the time anyways.
Yeah, well, you know what, in relation to like bodybuilding, again, like the people that you may be following are literally putting all the stuff up that you are putting up. So, the
absolutely,
the food, the goals.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And like you create, it's a little community, and you create beautiful friendships out of it, which is amazing. And I'm forever grateful for those friendships and the people I've met. We have been friends since I've started this journey, and I'm sure there are more to come with my journey in the future. But when you're competitive and you're competing, you need to focus on your mental health as well.
Yeah.
And it's really important to just focus on you this close into a show as well.
I love that.
Yeah.
And speaking of mental health, like you already mentioned that, 6 weeks, far from the show, you're going to be cutting a little bit off social media.
Yeah, absolutely.
What else will you be doing during this time just to help you, feel grounded and feel, mentally, safe?
Well, my work with Katia, I'll be continuing that every week until the show. And I speak to my coach daily. So chatting to Lisa for anything that I need, she's always there. And I obviously with my husband as well, like we're constantly talking when the kids are asleep. We talk about different things, and he really keeps me grounded and whole as well, which is really nice because I can get a bit crazy. We call it prep brain, and I'm suffering prep brain and baby brain still. So yeah, it's all mixed in one. So yeah, having that support and surrounding myself with that support is so important to me. And I found as I've gotten older and more mature, people that don't really align with you and your goals kind of drop off and fizzle off as you go. And you kind of like to keep your circle quite small. I think it's quite important to just surround yourself with those positive and happy and supportive people, and the rest will just fizzle out.
I love that you mentioned that you were suffering from competition brain and baby brain. Like that is some drama over there.
Oh, it's bad. It's so bad. Like I do silly things and I look at myself, I'm like, well, how is this happening? It's really bad. I guess that comes down to being a bit tired and hungry too, right? Like,
yeah.
I think
well, you know what? That's the beauty of dieting.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I love that. And when is the competition?
It is on the Gold Coast on October 29.
Nice. Very, very.
Yeah. Exciting. Yes, it is. So we fly up. The whole family actually is coming. So it's very exciting. I have about 15 family members coming to support me. So it's beautiful. It's very overwhelming. And we all fly up on the Wednesday, the 26th, and we're there until the following Wednesday. So we'll get some downtime and fun time to do with the kids.
I love that.
After
That's
the show.
The one in October, is that your first one competing as a figure model?
This will be my second show. So my second prep was cancelled due to COVID, and I was about 6 weeks out of show when it was cancelled. And then we had obviously those 2 years off, fell pregnant with Luna, my third, had a bit of a break. And yeah, so this will be my third show, fourth prep. Yes, as a figure model. Yeah.
Love that. The comeback.
The comeback, it is. Yeah. Yes. Everyone's been saying that. They're like, we can't wait for the comeback and to see you on stage again. I'm like, I know, it feels like it was yesterday that I was up on stage. So yeah, when they say the comeback, I'm like, wow, it has been a little while.
Yeah. But you know what? Because you've done it for so long, it literally feels like yesterday.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
I love that. It's so cool. What's one thing that you're looking forward when you're on that day of competition?
Just calm. I like the calmness. I love to see all my friends. We have it's a bit crazy in the morning because that's when we all know the pre-judging is done. So I'm very focused. As much as I love to chat and talk, I need to stay quite focused on my routine and my posing and myself. And then after we have a little break and then come back for the night show, and that's when we do the theme wear, and it's fun and it's more like, it's just exciting. So I'm looking forward to the celebrations after the morning show, and just to see everyone. We have a red carpet event the night before, which is a registration. We have our numbers and we take photos and interviews. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. And yeah, just to see everyone again and be in that atmosphere, because it's all about beauty and fashion as well as fitness too. So dressing up, getting hair and makeup done, and I'm all for the fashion side of it as well. So I really love all that glitz and glam, hence which pushed me into WBFF in the first place. So yeah.
I love that. Yeah, there's nothing better, to be honest. Like, I do like the Federation of WBFF, as you mentioned, because it has that mixture of like fitness and beauty.
Definitely.
And, you know, for females as well, like we love looking and feeling good. So when they have both of those aspects, you're like, oh, yes, cool. I love this.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like WBFF award girls that are feminine and that look beautiful, and they show that you can still have a masculine body but with femininity as well, like, and still look like, you know, a beautiful strong female. And they award those kind of figures, which I love as well. That's what I really like about the Federation.
I love that. What are your hopes for this competition?
Well, I'd be lying if I told you I didn't want to win this show. So if I win this show, when I win this show, I'll be receiving a pro card, so pro status. So then I will be able to compete as a pro athlete, which is the goal. And also, too, I'd want to win an Australian show so I can head overseas and compete next year as well. So that's the goal. So yeah, hopefully, touch wood, fingers crossed, fingers and toes crossed.
Crossing my fingers for you.
Thank you. But
I
look,
love that.
yeah, it'll be that's the goal. That's the end goal. So yeah, whether it doesn't happen this show or not, it'll happen eventually. So just keep striving for it.
Yeah, and I love how you you phrased that, because too often we're like, oh, if I win, or
Yeah,
if I get that. You like literally phrase it really well to make yourself realize, like, cool, when I get it,
yes,
when it
yes,
happens, it will happen.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's all about envisioning and seeing that in the future.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah,
And you're very big about talking and talking about your future self, and like making sure that every day that you're setting yourself up is setting yourself for your future self.
absolutely. Yeah, it's very important.
I love that. So good. So good. One last tip for our listeners, Latoya. What's the one thing that you can encourage women who are, in that bodybuilding phase?
hmm Well, believing in yourself, number one, finding a great coach and someone that understands you, someone that is going to be invested in you. There's a lot of coaches that take on a lot of girls, and comp prep is very full on. So yeah, just finding someone that you click with and align with, and someone that aligns with your health and body goals, and pushes you to be a better person. Surround yourself with supportive, positive people, and just go for it.
Yes, I love that. Surrounding yourself
Yeah,
with the right amount of people is so important.
absolutely. It really is, especially in any kind of competition. But yeah, definitely when you're depleted and training hard, it gets tough. So you need that support.
I love that. Well, girls, there you go. You've got that tip from Latoya. Before we head off, Latoya, where can our listeners find you?
My Instagram fitness page is at Latoya Caruso with a little underscore at the end.
Love that. Well, girls, if you're wanting to get more inspired by Latoya's journey of competing, then give her a follow. But otherwise, if you enjoyed today's podcast, please make sure that you screenshot it, tag us at the Women's Fitness Academy, tag Latoya, tag myself, and then till next time, start believing in yourself and start rephrasing your self-talk.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's been an honor.